series. We're thrilled that you chose on this Monday morning to join us in our session today, which will be entitled Celebrating Take Home. I want to welcome my wife, Terry Cowan, who was so good to put together the content and slides for us for this meeting, and she and I will co-present as the time goes on. Would you like to say good morning, Terry?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Monday. Happy Easter yesterday.
Yeah, I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday with family and friends. All right. So the question I would ask to begin, and just a welcome and warm-up time here is that are we really celebrating take-home? Take-home, of course, is exactly what we call retail products that the guest takes home with them after their service with you. And would we consider it celebrating take-home? In other words, is it something that is prominently featured in the salon? Is it cared for? Is it clean? Is it easy? All things that we're going to be talking about throughout the course of this morning time together. But celebrating it with staff, it's something that obviously is very key and critical to the overall sustainability of the salon and also the profitability of the salon. And it's important that we kind of think and treat. Hang on one second. Okay. I just got a message from someone that says you're showing the presenter view on the webinar. Can I please remind everyone on how to do a screenshot? If you will look at the, okay, I don't see it right now. We'll get back to that as time goes on. I'm sure I'll see it as we go on. Let's go right here. See if I can get. All right. Brian, if you could come up and correct this for me. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to begin. Again, we're on Celebrating Take Home, and we look at Take Home as one of the quality control checks that we have on a guest service. And what we mean by that is that how many of us have lost guests over our time in this business? And I think we would all agree that that many of us, all of us, have lost guests over time. And the thing is the guests don't always tell us. They don't always come up and say, hey, you know what, this wasn't fun today, or this didn't turn out the way I expected, and so I'm not going to be back in your salon. And so unfortunately, they just go away. And the problem with that is that I'm sorry, he's working with my screen as I'm talking. Had you known that that guest was going to be lost, you would have done anything you could that day to make it right. And so when we look at quality control checks, it's an opportunity to go ahead and make that right.
What we realize with the quality control checks is that if a guest is enjoying these extras, number one, they're enjoying extra services as add-ons, whether it be treatments or a certain kind of style upgrade, and they're rescheduling, and they're purchasing take-home. That really is telling us that the guest is really happy with their services and their relationships they're creating in the salon. So if the service dollar per guest is a price of a haircut only, and they're not rescheduling, and they're not enjoying take-home, there's a good chance that another salon could steal that guest from you because they're not locked in and committed to your organization. That's what statistics prove.
Exactly. And the reality of it is that the haircut or the service, the color service, the texture service, or whatever, has already been decided on before they got there that day. The real moment of truth happen when you ask that guest to support you in your choice of length, shape, dimension, also of how often you need to see them based on that length and shape, and what products that you recommend for them to take home to maintain it. Those are the little indicators, and of course service dollar per guest tells us, did we upsell the menu, and therefore did they take our word, did they take our advice, did they take, more importantly, our professional recommendation. All of those things are important to gauge guest satisfaction. If someone walks out for just the base service price, there's a very good chance that that they really are a temporary guest. That's what we say all the time. If you have someone who is base service price, not rescheduling a future appointment, and not purchasing take-home, and also doesn't recommend guests to come into you, they are a temporary guest. Don't change your standard of living as a result of whatever volume you're doing now. So we want to involve people in this. Take-home, in my is a phenomenon that took place in my 42 years in this business, and there was a long time where it was considered optional. It was a big battle that went on back and forth that do I want to sell, do I not want to sell, I'm an artist, I'm a designer, I'm not a salesperson, and you know, really it's not an option. If it were an option, you or the designer or the artist wouldn't pick up the product that you pick up off of your back bar in order to create that look today.
Well, you know what we struggle with sometimes, especially, excuse me, this goes back to when even a salon is creating their new location or maybe a little facelift or upgrades. The last area that salons really create room for is the take-home area. So sometimes a closet is more important than the retail area during build-outs or beginning stages of design. And really, what does that say? What do we expect our return on investment to be when it's not a priority to us? So we're going to talk more about that as we're going through the presentation.
Great. All right, and this is for owners, and what we say here is that without adjusting payroll in your business in any way, without adjusting the way you pay or the method, the percentage, etc., for every 4% that take-home sales are of your total gross intake, it reduces your cost of labor by 1%. And it's just a mathematical equation that proves true. And so many times it is a very necessary piece of the business that has to take place, and yet we don't pay as much attention to it as we should or could. All right, so we're going to go into Take-Home 101, and really we will save some time for conversation at the end of it. But one of the things that we believe is that every conversation either supports or does not support your professional recommendation. One of the things that, if we look back on take-home sales in general, we see that there was a time when the client was weekly and the salon took care of every single need that the guest had. If it needed conditioned, they conditioned it. If it needed a tone change.
Well, even if it needed washed.
Even if it needed washed, yeah.
Many guests didn't wash their hair at home.
In between visits, they didn't.
Right.
I mean, I can remember when I first started in this business.
This is really proving your age. You know that, don't you?
I know. But you know what? I have a feeling everybody on this call would forgive me for being old. But I had a truck, a big truck that I drove around to the salons, and it had a cloud on it in the back. That was before the cloud. It was just a cloud on my truck. And it said, "See your hairdresser every week." And boy, how things have changed in that time. But when it changed, it also made it necessary for the guest to take home product. So we went from zero take-home other than lifter combs, satin pillowcases, and rain bonnets and hairspray to everything that a guest needs in between their visits. And we didn't necessarily adjust our service ethic at the same time.
Well, we certainly didn't adjust our conversation.
That's correct. So with that in mind, we went through a time where salons were growing in their ability to display and to manage the retail side of the business, but the majority of the business was done over the counter in drugstores, supermarkets, department stores, etc. And what resulted was about a 10-year period of time where, because salons were growing in their market segment and their market share, the retail market, so to speak, the over-the-counter market was not growing. And so they started to do a couple of things that, that have been a nuisance, I want to say, ever since. One is that they started the gray market, black market, or diverted market because they thought, okay, these products are obviously what the customer wants. We have to have them as well. And so they went to a lot of, long-term means, a lot of expense and extent to gather products into their business so that they could distribute them to the stores. And then the other part is that they realized that the consumer would tolerate a higher price and in some cases a more standard size of product, 8-ounce, 10-ounce, etc. At that time, there were a lot of 6-ounce bottles of product that were being sold at 6-ounce, or the very cheap stuff that was sold in 32-ounce. But the reality of it is it really changed the entire industry and the way it looks at things. So they went through this flat time. And when they couldn't get market penetration or growth, what they did was they started to buy the L'Oreals and the Procter and Gamble's and the Estee Lauders and whatnot started to buy our professional brands, and that's when it really crossed over and started to affect the salon business, because these are people that don't think about the hairdresser first. They think about them as a channel of distribution. So in our conversation, are we supporting the brands and the reason for why we have the brands? I think that's really important. Whatever brands you have in your salon, you have because of a connection.
Well, you have to be able to state to the guest why. Why do we have these? Why do we believe in this? Why have we connected with this brand? And why these brands are so important to our careers.
Mm-hmm.
Our professional career, not financially supportive, but what do these products do to make our craft richer and a stronger presence for our guest?
Okay. Terry, can you take it for just a second? You want me to go to the next slide? I've got somebody calling that I think is trying to get in.
Okay.
Okay.
Take the next slide.
All right.
So when we look at the opportunities for professional conversation, I've got the greeting listed as the top thing because I think that there's really room here to, when we're greeting a guest up front, to talk about what we're featuring today, or have you looked at our product presentation today, or these are our specials this afternoon, or whatever. We've got an opportunity to even address during our hello with a guest, when we go to greet them and announce ourselves to them and bring them back into the salon, we have an opportunity right at that moment to personalize our greeting with our professional recommendation. Of course, we're going to talk about our professional recommendation during the consultation. Because you said this, I'm going to be giving my recommendation with this product to create this kind of result. We're going to talk about it during the wash house. We're going to talk about it through the cut or the chemical service. We're talking about it during the style, maybe even during certain different kind of finishes we're trying to create, and we're certainly going to talk about it during the close, our steps before they leave. Now, many people, if you really are honest with yourselves, are we talking about product during all these types of services during the salon, or do you think you're stronger only during the finish or the close? It might be too late to make impact. So it's very necessary for us to understand how are we going to incorporate these conversations nicely, sweetly, professionally during the service.
Well, and I think that's a lot right there. We could probably
do a whole hour just on
yeah, spend the rest of the time on that.
Let's give examples of how we would incorporate.
The most important thing, I think, is starting at the consultation, is that we are in asking the right questions to get information. It's important that we don't ask what brands are you using, but what types of products do you typically use to maintain your look on a daily basis, daily, every other day, or every shampoo basis. We need to find out what it is their style, their grooming habits are. And for example, the leave-in conditioner, rinse-out conditioner. Are you deep conditioning at all? Do you use a gel, a mousse? Do you use a combination? Do you use an oil? Do you mix the oil with? Just those kind of things. And say, and what are you looking for when you do that? What is it that does for you? After we've gathered all of this information, we really have to be in question mode, open-ended questions so they can talk, not closed-ended question, or not so that we can take one thing they say and go off on a tangent with it. We want to, kind of like kind of like any professional would do. Any doctor, any attorney, they gather all of the information before they start to comment. They'll dig deeper to qualify something if they don't fully understand it, and that's what we need to do as professionals. So when it's time for us to begin to speak, and we go through, this is what we're going to do today with your hair, I think that that's also the time to refer back to what they've told us with the length and the shape and the dimension and the types of products then that we're going to use on them today, and that we'll be sure as a professional to make our recommendation and also to teach the best way to apply that product and how much they should use throughout.
And how the hair is responding.
Oh my gosh, that's the most fun part. We say all the time, don't ever expect a guest to be more excited about something than you are. And so if that product is responding, if the hair is responding when you're cutting it in a certain way, get excited about it. I mean, this is art taking place right before your eyes and theirs. And part of that is certainly the way we prepare the canvas, the way that we are preparing the hair and working with the hair, and the way the hair responds to what you're using and what you're doing. So it comes up throughout. In the wash house, we suggest that you, excuse me, it's your first opportunity to use the information that you've gathered, really. And so even if someone else is doing your cleansing in the wash house area, you want to be sure and do a professional pass-off. And it would sound something like this. If I were passing this off to Terry, I'd say, Terry, I've just had a wonderful conversation with Elizabeth about her hair, and we're going to be doing some incredible things today. Because she told me that she is already color treated and she is concerned about the condition of her hair, I'm going to use XYZ. I want you to use XYZ product to cleanse the hair with. And then I'd like a towel blot and an application of XYZ deep conditioning treatment. And I want you to move that through the hair completely and then allow her the 10 minutes that it takes for processing, then rinse, and I'd love to see Elizabeth back at my station when you're complete. Elizabeth, you're in great hands with Terry. And that's a simple, professional pass-off. It proves that you listened to what she said. You always want to relay back to what that guest said to you earlier in the service. You're setting yourself up for success that way. Now,
now that 35 seconds, most people will say, we don't have time to do that. We really believe that you really don't have time not to do it. And did I say that right? I mean, it's Monday morning. I don't even know what I said.
You don't have time not to do it.
You don't have time not to do it. This is when your guest wants to know that you are listening, that it's all about them, that you as a team are making sure that this guest's needs are fully taken care of. And what a wonderful pass-off versus just go with her and I don't know what she's using, but she'll pick something and I'll see you back here. There's a big difference between the two. And even if it doesn't need to be said, because you as a team know exactly how to communicate, almost just eyes to eyes, the guest needs to know that you're communicating. And when you talk about what you're doing for them, that's when they really feel important and cared for.
No doubt. And it's also time, as Robert says, it's time to play the name game. You're doing an introduction. And when you use the cleansing technician or the teammate that you pass off to, it's important that you address her with professionalism, her or him, with the professionalism and by name, and also the guest by name.
Well, now, even if you're doing the wash house experience yourself, you need to reiterate why you're using and making the decisions you are.
No doubt. Absolutely the truth. So that's an important thing, and you know what, you can actually spend a lot of time getting that right as well. It sounds easy, but anything that's easy to do is also easy not to do.
Well, you know what's funny is because I was watching my mom prepare a dish last night, and at times she was supposed to be teaching me, but she was working in silence. And I think she really thought she was talking and teaching, but I'd have to say, what are you doing now? Why are you doing that? What are you doing now? Because when we're used to doing something over and over again, we go into that that silent professional mode. The trouble is the person watching wants to hear why you're making the decisions you're making. And they want to learn from you, and they want to hear your passion, and why do you like preparing this dish? And it's the same thing. Why do you like this shampoo? Why have you chosen this? What are you expecting to get out of this? And they're not going to ask you those questions. You have to provide that for them to be part of the service. This isn't social hour only. This is professional hour. And silence to us, oftentimes in business, is the enemy of success. Because when someone else can speak about what they do better than we can, and their fuss level is higher, and usually it's verbally, that's going to make a big impact on the guest.
Well, the other part too, quite honestly, is there are many distractions in a salon. There's many distractions during shampooing. Somebody else might be taking down color and show you, a concern in their eyes, and so you're looking over to see what their guest is, what the situation is with that guest. You can walk into a station that hasn't been prepared for you properly or left properly by the people in advance, and so what you really want to do is when you're speaking to the guest with information, you have to focus. About them. You have to focus. So it kind of it deletes out all of those other things that are going on in the salon or in the wash house. So very important that we have a design and a plan for that area. And there really should be in all of these. If you've ever been with us, and I know many of you have, on PSCNet, we talk a lot about the steps of the service, and they are what's on your screen right now. And there really should be a dialogue plan for every single step that's your way, that becomes your salon way. And it takes time to install or to get proper adoption of all of these things in your salon. But you know what? Look how fast a week and a month goes. So we just suggest you get started this month, this day, today, with what you want to do in these areas, and build them into your upcoming staff meetings. Put them on the agenda. But the wash house is critical. We've got so much time, and something that we've usually said by now in this whole process is there's so much talk about e-sales and people buying products, buying everything. Some people shop for everything on the internet. And the interesting thing that I firmly believe is that every single one of those web sales companies would give up their web presence if they could spend 45 minutes, 30 minutes of direct sales time, of direct service time with their guests face-to-face. There's just no second best for that. And that's what comes along with the cosmetologist license. Mm-hmm. You have that time. And the thing is that sometimes we just tune out or get busy or get self-absorbed, when really, remember that every single thing that takes place contributes or doesn't contribute to the dreams and the future that you have. And so we always look at it as saying that the words you use, the dialogue, the way you escort a guest through their service experience in your salon are the words that you use to interview for the future that you want to live in. That's really important. If you don't have that dialogue, if you don't take these steps of the service seriously, and I know so many of you that are on this call, so I know you do, but it's critically important that you see this as your time to kind of create the future and the future of your stylists that have joined you for the future that they want to live in. It's just there's no second place for this. So during the service, again, we're going to refer to the every single product that we pick up. It's one of the very basic things that I learned from Paul Mitchell himself when we first started working together. And Paul's thing was he set the products up on the station, and when he picked them up, he talked about it, and he put a little bit in the guest hand, and then he used it, and he handed the bottle back to the guest. and it starts to establish ownership. It takes away that fear of touching. Sometimes our products in a salon are displayed so beautifully it looks like almost a museum display, or precious moments on the shelf. And what we really need is for them to be shoppable and touchable. And by establishing that at the station, we've already established that. Now, it does require discipline because they've got to be holdable, and that has to do with being clean and ready. I was in a salon last week where the names of people were written on the bottles in marker because they weren't sharing the product well, I guess. But that's not necessarily the best way to to present a precious take-home product for the guest to take home. So again, it's just taking advantage of every little thing. The style, there's products that you use specifically that are going to make the hair work the way that you want it to, that are going to allow you to finish that look. There's products that go in at that time which are the foundation of great style. And to a new customer, to a new guest, it may sound like, oh my God, there's so much going on here. There's so many products. Well, there are. They're the products. They're the products that are the tools of your craft. And we need to, as Terry said, we need to talk about them. We need to celebrate them. But most importantly, we need to say, here's why I'm using this product, and here's why you'll enjoy this at home. This is a tool and an extension of our creativity here in the salon, and we want you to be able to enjoy this at home. Same thing if you're using finishing products, the little things that kind of are the fuss factor that we're going to talk about a little bit later in this.
Well, we're still on this slide.
I know. We said we could be, right?
Well, you know what I think? I think we'll do another one, another e-learning. I'll create maybe something else and to go with this. So we need to go to the next slide now.
I always obey so nicely, don't I?
Yes, you do. Obey.
That's right. Okay, now you can do this, because this is, you can tell, can't you, which are my words that have been crafted and which comes from Terry.
Well, and I think that when I look at this, would you purchase from you? I always say that I'm a big TJ Maxx shopper, and I love it. Now, You're
just a big shopper.
I'm a big shopper, but when you think about TJ Maxx, because you find something at the price you want. I mean, those commercials where the ladies are in the store looking at prices and they almost drop dead when they turn the shoe over, and then they find it at TJ Maxx and they're happy and they check out. Now, would you purchase from you? Are you exciting to purchase from? Do we tell the guest, wow, you made great selections, beautiful purchases. That's my favorite product too. Do we get excited about it, or do we treat it like a can of soup? When you're at TJ Maxx, you know that you're looking for price versus display. Even though TJ Maxx is also making great strides in how they're displaying and such, but you will be okay with maybe some dust bunnies on the floor. You'd be okay with maybe someone not knowing all the features and benefits of the product at TJ Maxx. You wouldn't tolerate that from Nordstrom. You wouldn't tolerate that from Neiman Marcus. So when you're looking at this, would you purchase from you? And what kind of experience are you creating? And are you celebrating and love your products? We don't have the luxury to ever get bored with what we represent. Years ago, I purchased a consultation session with Bobbi Brown. And I think it was at Nordstrom or Neiman's, I can't remember. You purchased a 15-minute consultation from Bobbi Brown. You walked up there and she looked at your face, she looked at her skin, and she had some of her makeup all laid out, and she drew on a face headshot, and then she passed it along to someone else where they did your makeup. But I'm telling you, she talked about her mascara, her foundations, her cleansing system like she never had said it before. And it was just absolutely wonderful. Do we do that? Do we get that excited about what we represent? Because that's our job. And when you were passed on to somebody else, they were excited about her products as well. And that's our job, to make sure that we're creating the excitement. Is that easy? No. There's days when you think, I have said this 40,000 times. But it's our job to say it 40,001 with the same enthusiastic excitement that the guest wants to hear from you, and also that we are tweaking and touching our displays, and we're touching our product, and we're creating the romance. This is the beauty industry, that we're creating the romance area in our business that it deserves. Okay, let's go on. What does expert status mean, and what does that look like? And when you think about being the expert, when someone says, what do you like about this product, or why did you choose that one? You go right into, this is what I was looking for it to do. This is what I expected it to do. You speak in, not questions, in statements. And an expert knows exactly what they're talking about. And what does that look like? What does an expert look like? They look professional. They hold the product in a professional way. They love looking at their display of products that they can use and picking out just the right mixture that they want for this guest. What does that look like? And you want the guest to witness your expert status. Just like the Bobbi Brown, when I sat down, I knew she knew what she was talking about. When she passed it along to her educator team, I knew that I could expect the same thing from them. Do you expect that from everyone that works in the salon, that we have expert status, not just about our craft of being a hairdresser, but being the person that's going to recommend the greatest product mix for them to go home with? And don't talk too fast during this. Remember, I think the biggest fear that our guests have when they're sitting in our chairs is because we're not hairdressers, meaning me included, is that you'll talk to your own understanding. And an expert wants to exchange the information so you're not intimidated. An expert doesn't try to intimidate or overwhelm a guest. The expert is going to bring the guest along and help them understand what they can expect from this product's performance.
Take-home supports the artistic flair and talent. Absolutely, and this slide just kind of reemphasizes what we've talked about so far, that it's an extension of you, extension of your hands, extension of what you see and what you're creating and the end result. One of the things that happens so much of the time is that I think as professionals we take for granted that we begin with the end result in mind. What
do you mean by that?
Well, that's your starting point. After the consultation and when you begin the service, the hairdresser, the designer, already sees the end result in their mind, and everything they do is working toward that end result, including the tools they use, the sections that they take, the way that they finish the hair, the way they blow dry it, and all of the specific products that they use along the way are an extension of getting to that end result. And so again, it's talking about it, but it's also enjoying it. You know, it's if you've ever seen me speak when there's product in the room, I'm always touching the product. I'm always taking the cap off and enjoying the aroma, the fragrance of the product. It just I can't help but do that because I love it, and that's the same way when. And I know it's hard to love it every second. It's just a means to an end. But again, the pay scale is way different when you love it. That's the thing that I can promise everybody, is that when you love the product and share the reason why you're connected and share the reason, more importantly, why you chose it for them.
Well, I think another thing is you've got an opportunity to help the guests understand what all of your favorites are right now. I mean, I go through different favorites as a consumer, but all of you go through different favorites as a hairdresser. There's times you go, oh, I forgot all about spray wax, and I'm using spray wax right now, and I love it again. So what are your favorites right now? And are we putting little things up or having little signs up that's stating this is Tina's favorite right now, and this is what she's enjoying, and this is what Jenna's favorite is, and we put those out there so the guests can see this is what we're celebrating right now. And maybe it's different mannequin heads around showing different types of ways that this half a head has this product on it, this one doesn't. But you've got to get the guests involved in that, and you do that with visuals. Most of them only can see it with visuals, and they don't understand it just having it be told to them. What are you doing to celebrate take-home in the salon? All right, next one. I love this. I mean, professional recommendation. I think about skillful hands plus skillful products, and the result is priceless. I mean, that's what professional recommendation does. Steve, do you want to say anything about this? Because I just love this.
I do too. It's the first time I've seen it actually, Tara. I love it.
Well, I was in a restaurant just recently. I think I was with, we were at the Midwest show.
Yeah, you were with me. We were somewhere.
And I looked down and it said, this food is prepared with skillful hands. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm using that. And so when we look at your salon, skillful hands plus skillful products equal priceless. You could use that in your business and do something with that right now, because you know how to use the products. So they're skillful products. You know how to use your hands. Now, what we don't have on here, and the enemy of this could be, is skillful hands, skillful products, quiet voice would ruin this whole thing.
You know, one of the things I'm seeing when I look at this is, and just because it's under development, skillful hands, world-class products, skillful recommendations equals priceless.
I mean, it's just something that...
It's just something you can go with.
Well, we forget our responsibility. And you do it 8 times a day, and you think, okay, did I say that to them? Did I not say that to them? I mean, I was just at the ABS show, and I don't know what I was saying to people and not saying to people by the end of the day. And that's what you do every single day. So you have to say. The beautiful thing about knowing what you want to say during the steps of the service is when you get to the wash house, you know you have to say this. When you get to the service, you know you have to say this. When you need to get to the take-home, the steps of the service will guide your dialogue, so you don't forget what you haven't said. And you don't forget that you've lost your place.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Well, and that's the key, too, of planned dialogue.
Right.
And that's kind of the importance. At one time, we used to talk a lot about the fact that people spend more time planning what they're going to say on their phone voicemail than what they're going to say to the next guest that walks in. And the challenge of not planning what we're going to say when the next guest walks in is we may do it well sometimes, but any time that we're just winging it, we're only going to get it right some of the time. We want well-intended dialogue. We want very specific dialogue that goes to the guest. Because we're expecting very specific results. Remember how this all ties in. Terry and I also teach a compensation plan that this is one of the key metrics is take home.
Mm-hmm.
And
well,
so
and
therefore,
you know, something you usually have said before this point is do you remember how awkward you were willing to be on your way to becoming a hairdresser with your hands?
yes.
And you have to be willing to be awkward with your words on the way to becoming great dialogue expert, just the same way.
That holds so many people back, that not being willing. I mean, you're only awkward with your words for a few times until you got it, until you know exactly how your personality is going to flow through that intended dialogue. And once it does, that's something that will help you secure guests, and that will help you to reach your dreams faster and more than anything else. I just had a chance to walk through last week Visible Changes again in Houston. And I walked through 2 of their salons, and I've got to tell you that even I was there with another salon owner, and even there I saw more dialogue, more skillful dialogue, attention paid, fussing over the guest, and always, always, always a trip through take-home. I didn't see it fail one time where the stylist walked the guest through take-home. And I saw more products sold in the hour that I was in each location than I've ever seen in one of our salons. And so I want to challenge you that it's so possible. I've seen it done. what Sonia does in their salon down in Southern Illinois is amazing. And there's so many people say, well, that won't work in my town. That won't work in my area.
Well, Centralia is only 15,000 people.
I know. And so it happens there. It can happen anywhere. That's just the thing that we want to say. And so please know that this is a process. You're never done with it. That's the other thing. So many things, for example, whether it's learning a hair cutting method, whether it's learning how to do a particular highlighting technique. Once you've learned it and it's done. But when we're talking about take home, we're talking about working on our dialogue to upsell the menu on anything. That's a process, and it's never finished. You will constantly be reworking it, making it fresh, making it new, talking about, finding different ways to talk about the things that we do with products to support our artistic flair. License to fuss. I love this because, you know, we have studied, I had a chance to study many, privilege actually, to study many great hairdressers over the years. And the one thing that I've noticed the most is that the most successful hairdressers fuss over their guests. It's that little bit extra. It's that little bit of placing hair, of looking at them, of having them step up when they're done, and just looking at them and fixing a couple pieces of hair, brushing off a little bit on the collar or on the dress or the blouse, commenting on what they see.
Well, I love the little noises that a great hairdresser makes. I mean, if I think about watching Stephanie Kachowski cut hair, and she cuts my hair, and while she's cutting it, love that. And that's the kind of noises she makes while she's doing my hair. Well, guess what? I'm loving my hair too. And I'm excited because she's having a ball, and I'm having a ball watching her love my hair. So are we doing that enough? We have a license to fuss over our guests. And I can even tell you that watching our children in the morning and getting them ready for school, and fussing and getting their hair right, and their hoodie to lay right, and for them to look so good and fussing over them, that gives them the added confidence to get on that school bus. That's the same thing that happens when we fuss over a guest, is it gives them that added confidence to walk into that world. And that's what this is all about.
And I'm telling you, the majority of people that sit in your chair, the majority of people don't have people that are fussing over them. And when you can do that, that's creating a guest for life. When you make your focus on them to the point where they feel special, where they feel fussed over, where they feel their most confident self, that's part of the changing the world that brought me to the hairdressing industry so many years ago. It's in your hands, it's in your eyes, it's in your pay attention factor, and it's in your ability to fuss. How many products do you enjoy? I mean, I know if your master bathroom is anything like ours, Terry used to say all the time we had a concrete guy that lived next door to us, and he had the coolest driveway in the neighborhood.
As he should.
Yeah, and we have a master bath that is just it's a little tired, but the products are amazing.
There's products everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I used 4 or 5 today, and as I should, and I think about the next slide is the average customer in the beauty industry, the average guest uses less than 2.
Well, they purchase less than 2. I believe they use more.
All right, but they purchase less than 2 from a salon. All right, so that means less than 2, that means less than 2. So if you only, all of us on the phone call, could only use 1 product, because that's less than 2, what would you use? And could you go to just 1? And see, that's the problem. I can't go to just 1. There's no way. I'm not going to give up my professional shampoos. I'm not going to give up my professional mask. I'm not going to give up my styling products or my finishing spray. But we allow our guests to get away from those because we're not romancing them enough. And if our guests use less than we do, what does that say about our professional recommendation? It says that it's silent. and that we're working in silence, and we're thinking we don't want to be salesmen, we don't want to sound pushy, we don't want to. We can come up with all excuses in the world. But the point is, it's our responsibility to protect our industry and to keep the product usage that they're enjoying out of the salon.
Mm-hmm. This is a big one, really. When you stop and think about it, that one product, it would be impossible. Even for me as a guy, it would be absolutely impossible for me to use only one product. And yet I've been spoiled because all my life I've used professional products. I've never, ever, other than if I was at a hotel and didn't have my...
and that's pretty funny when that
happens about once a year.
Because you get really angry.
It's just awful. So when you think about that, we can't be selfish. We just can't be selfish when it comes to that. We've got to be sure that that our guests have exactly the same opportunity that we do, and they want that. And one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of kill price once and for all in this, regardless of what the price of the product is that you sell. Your guest passed a lot of salons on the way to your salon. Without a doubt, they passed up a lot of different places they could go. And more importantly, they passed up places that charge less for their services than what you do. Unless you're the lowest price salon in town, and I don't believe that to be true with any of you, they're paying more to be there. Why would we consider that they would pay more for a haircut and wouldn't want to pay to maintain it? It makes no sense to me at all. That's got to get out of everybody's head. And I know one of the reasons why it's in people's heads is that we don't pay take-home prices for the products that we use. We, as a profession, we get them at wholesale. And so when we see the retail price, sometimes there's a little sticker shock. But there shouldn't be. Allow your guests to spend their money. They're spending more of it to be with you for their haircuts and their color and their highlights and their dimensional services, their texture services. Think of some of the texture services. My goodness, we're doing extensions and some of these texture services are $600 to do. We wouldn't think of not recommending product in those cases, not recommending take home for them to maintain what you just did. And so it's the same way on a haircut. It's the same way, especially on color. So we just want to be sure that you realize that that's a number that should go up. It still is something. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is that I've got school numbers in front of me here, and I can tell you that year to date. Let me go. Year to date in Chicago, we're at $12 per guest, and in Lombard, we're at $7 per guest in take-home sales, and that's in a school. And when we look at numbers from salons, I know there's people on this call, Sonia, and if that there's others that are on here that are just knocking it out of the park, and you've got $16, $18, $20, $22 per guest in take home, but there's an awful lot more that we see $3.50, $4, $1.98, and when you think of the average price of a bottle of shampoo, if you're at $1.98 per guest in take home, that's 4 or 5 guests before you sell the first bottle, and that just doesn't work long term. So again, set your sights, begin with the end in mind, realize what it is that we want to accomplish. That's why Terry and I talk about all the time. What's that self-talk? What's that mantra? What's my overall ticket value going to be? And of that ticket, what portion is service, what portion is take home, and you just keep repeating it, whether it be $75, $50 and $25, whether it be maybe it's $75, $65 and $10, whatever the case may be. It's throughout the day. We have a moment of truth every hour or every half hour when we complete a guest, and we can compare what our intention was with what our outcome is, and then make adjustments as we go along.
Every owner on the phone should tell their staff what their dollar per guest needs to be at their pricing structure, not keep your fingers crossed and hope they do it, but that your job is to monitor what their dollar per guest average should be, period. And if it's not at the forefront of conversation, it's not going to be at the forefront of performance. You know, even watching basketball tonight, we're all going to be looking at the scoreboard. And I love when they say at halftime, Coach, what adjustments are you going to have to make going into the second half? Well, the first thing they say is, we missed how many offensive rebounds. We have to get under and get our offensive rebounds. I would love to have all of you call me on Wednesday and I say, what adjustments are you making the second half of the week? Well, we have to sell more take-home. See, our job is to either celebrate or respond to what the numbers are telling us. And there's oftentimes we're not talking about the scoreboard, we're talking about the art. And if we're not talking about the scoreboard, we're not talking about the profit of the business. So you need to help them understand what their productivity has to be, service dollar per guest, take-home dollar per guest. So it's good for the business, good for the guest, good for the professional. And it's really as simple as that. But someone has to be leading the charge of conversation. And owners on the phone, you're the coach, your job.
And also remember that your teams place value where you show up. And are you showing up in the conversation about what brands you chose, what distributors you choose to support, what manufacturers, what educators, and what brands within the product lines that you sell? Where do you show up in conversation? And again, one of those is simply the development of people. If we're really going to develop our staffs, it has to include this part. It's I've had salons in the past that said, you know what, we're not going to get involved in that part. That's the distributor's job. That's you and Terry's job. And you know what? It is, and we're happy to participate. But it makes such a difference when the owner shows up in that arena as well and says, you know what, it matters. It matters that you support this brand or this company, because this is why I as an owner support this brand and this company.
I think that's a great point, and I think when we partner with you, you need to push our staff and Steve and I to help push you and say, you know what, I know I'm too silent on this topic. Can you help me? And we will. As a company, we'll help push the results for you.
And one of the things that I again would encourage, and I've seen it up in you know, some of our best salons have built this into their dialogue, and they have used it as signs in their take-home area. And it has to do with this. When we first started selling take-home as an industry, it was A, an afterthought, and B, we were almost apologetic for it. And what came forward was the fact that there were many conversations that a guest would have and say, oh, you just love that product because you make money on it. And the number of times that I've heard a hairdresser or a salon say, you know what, we don't make that much money on it, or we don't make money on it, we just carry it for your convenience. I mean, that's not true. We do carry it because we make money on it. And we shouldn't have to feel bad about it. And so what we have prepared dialogue for that has been used by many throughout the industry, and it simply is this. It matters where you purchase your professional products from. Much of what you enjoy here in our salon is made possible through the profits from these products. We appreciate your loyalty. And it's really just that simple. It says, yes, we do make money on it, and much of what you enjoy here in our salon is made possible through those profits. So what's made possible, just so that, again, we can kind of sell you on this idea. Your education and training is made possible through those profits. Your ability to be a sustainable business in the beauty industry is made possible through the profits from those products. Your decor of the salon, I mean, much of what, we don't say all of what, but much of what the guest enjoys in the salon is made possible through the profits from these products. It's an important part of what we do, and what's the most important part is that it's magical when it comes to working and its effects and its value for you as our customer.
So let's talk about people walk into your business, and is it pretty? Meaning the take-home area. Does it tell a story? Is it professional recommendation at the top of your voice? Is the why obvious as to why you've chosen this company to partner with? Are we changing it up enough? I mean, right now, our store in Joliet, I'm thinking, okay, I'm sick of this now. I've got to change it up, and the guests probably won't be happy because as soon as they know where everything is, I move it around a little bit. But I think that we have to sometimes. If I walked into Nordstrom, it was always exactly the same. I think I'd get bored with it. And so I have to make sure that if I'm bored, then you're going to get bored. And when you're boring, that's awful. So let's figure out, how do we mix it up? How do we fuss? Do we have a take-home team right in our business that the salon gets involved with? Do we create themes? Do we create romantic times of the year that we can fuss with fabric? And I used to call it pretty displays. But we have to make sure that the customer says, oh my gosh, every time I come in here there's something new going on and it's just so beautiful and I just want to shop and I'm just so excited. And or do they come in and they don't say anything? And I think that silence tells us a ton.
Terry, I want to jump in for just a second because Irandi sent us I think what's a great question or suggestion, and I just want everybody to have a chance to hear it. And we have not talked about the service desk at all, the front desk in a salon, and how important it is that the staff at that service desk be knowledgeable on all of the workings of the salon, the services, and of course the take-home products. Sometimes we want them to be more knowledgeable than we're willing to invest time in training of them. And so really, really important that they're included in any trainings with the staff on product knowledge, product performance, take-home recommendation.
Oh, I agree completely, but let's also be careful because knowledge, too much knowledge, and they're gonna think, the customers are going to think, and they're going to think that they're a hairdresser. I think that they can guide them, and certainly they can be knowledgeable and have expert status on what the products do. However, anytime a guest says, Terry, should I use this product? I'm so flattered. You think I'm a hairdresser. Please excuse me while I get one of the professionals so they can give you professional recommendation. I'll assist you with the sale once they've made a decision. Something like that, but be careful because what happens at the front desk? Because if I worked at a front desk, I'd want everyone to use the products I'm using.
Well, but here's an important thing on that too, I think, and it's that they can do and they should do everything to romance the take-home area, how it visually looks, and little points of knowledge that are available in the take-home setting itself, little placards and fun things that tell a story. I think that a service desk provider can do everything short of a professional recommendation. They can share, this is what our guests like about this product. This is what many people have told me about this product. It can even be, this is what I like about this product. But I agree with you, when it comes to professional recommendation, that can go exclusively to the stylist, and that's time to get a stylist involved if they're asking for a personal recommendation.
Well, and what's scary is if they come to the front after their service and they're trying to choose products for themselves, that just means the hairdresser didn't do their job.
Yeah, but again, to look at it positively, and that time before a guest even gets with the, I mean, that's the service desk time.
That's right.
That's the service desk time to inform and entertain and educate the guest. And because again, in Arandi's question, she says it's awesome when the client gets back to their service area and says, your service desk person was telling me about that.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, well, they can certainly create and start a wonderful conversation, especially about promotions or the product that we're featuring, or look at the hairdresser's favorites that they're featuring this month. They can create a lot of conversation about that as well.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Steve, we're out of time.
We've gone over our time. And
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Terry, next topic is?
I don't know.
To be determined?
I'm not looking at it. It's in our calendar, but I'm not aware of it right this moment.
Okay. Well, we hope you had a wonderful Easter and great family time, and carry that energy and that care and that love into this week and this month. And we'll talk to you again next month.
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye now.